Let's bring you more on this situation. We're joined on the program by former Commissioner for Information in Kogi State, Mr. Kingsley Fanwo. He joins us virtually on the program. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics, Mr. Fanwo.
Thank you very much. I am still the current Commissioner for Information and Communications in Kogi State.
Apologies for that. Former governor, but you are the current commissioner. Just pardon me. There's lots of things happening right now. But let's start with the big one. And that is the fact that the EFCC vehemently said that the current governor whom you work with now, Governor Ododo, came in and he was instrumental to whisking away former governor Bello. I'd like you to respond to that because that is a major one and even played out at the court with the lawyer saying, well, someone with immunity was responsible for whisking away former governor Bello. Mr. Fanwo, is that true?
Thank you very much. It's unfortunate that we are being dragged into this once again. I mean, the Kogi State government. The allegation by the EFCC is laughable. How were they even aware? How sure were they that the former governor was in his residence? They were not sure. And also, they were not sure whether the current governor went in to whisk him away. So the allegation is false. The governor of the state, His Excellency Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo, is a law-abiding citizen, a leader who respects the rule of law and constitutionalism. So he's not going to be involved in that kind of a thing. So saying that is ludicrous, is laughable, and it's one of the most frivolous things I've heard from the EFCC, the repertoire of a lot of frivolities of recent. So I am saying categorically that the governor did not do such things. It was another misrepresentation of fact, disinformation, misinformation by the EFCC to achieve their aims.
Whom you worked with also, if he wasn't whisked away by Governor Ododo, does that mean he was in that apartment, he slept in that apartment? And that will beg the question, why wasn't he in court today?
I am not responsible for knowing where the governor sleeps. I think his partners and his family members are responsible for that. What I'm saying is that the governor did not whisk him away from anywhere. And I'm also sure that the former governor is not evading any kind of arrest. He's not running away from anyone. And, we would look at the law courts and see what they are doing. A lot of things are happening right now concerning the issue. And, there was a subsisting injunction by a competent court of jurisdiction. A suit was filed by the former governor for the protection of his fundamental human right to restrain the EFCC from harassing, from persecuting, from arresting, and all of that him. And, the court granted the interim injunction pending when the substantive suit will be heard and determined. And immediately that was done, the EFCC lawyers decided to file an appeal against that interim injunction. So they cannot claim not to know there was an injunction, because you cannot be appealing what you are not aware of. So an appeal was filed at the appeal court in Abuja against that interim injunction. And the appeal court said they didn't grant their prayers that the injunction should be set aside. They said they would hear the substantive suit. And they fixed April 22nd. I think it's going to be on Monday to hear the suit. But before the time, the EFCC decided to create their own law by going to harass, intimidate, and that is contempt on its own, because you cannot be disregarding court judgment. So that is contempt. So the governor is not even aware that anybody wants to arrest him, because he's protected by the law, he's protected by the courts, except I want to say that we have descended to a state of anarchy or state of anarchy in this country, where the decision of the law court does not matter again.
Are you also aware that the EFCC got an order of the Federal High Court to go ahead and arrest the former governor?
Thank you very much. I read about it. I've not seen it, so I can't categorically say that they actually got an order. But when you do that kind of a thing, it's abuse of court processes. You know, yesterday they were at the residence of the former governor. I was told they got there at about 9 a.m. in the morning, and as at 3 p.m. they were still shopping for an order that would grant them the powers to arrest him. So why did they go to his house before seeking the constitutional powers to be able to do that? So it is unfortunate. How were they so sure that they were going to be granted, and they went ahead to stay in his house waiting for that order to be granted by the Federal High Court? And as you are aware, even before that, a state high court that granted the restraining injunction in the first place also had the substantive suit and decided in favor of the former governor, restraining the EFCC from harassing, from persecuting, from arresting him, any members of his family, and even the government officials that work with him. It was a fact. And, you know, now the Federal High Court they were able to procure another order from that place. There are courts of coordinate jurisdiction, and you know, what is there is that we have a subsisting court order, and the conversation should center around the content by the EFCC. You cannot be breaking the law and want constitutionalism to be the order of the day. They've broken the law. They've committed contempt by not respecting a restraining order that stopped them from harassing, from intimidating, from arresting the former governor. So that is the conversation right now, and the EFCC cannot continue to flount the law. I think they should face the contempt charges.
So let's break this down properly, and we're going to get the benefit of a senior advocate of Nigeria, just his thoughts on this show. But we're talking about two court rulings now. One of the rulings is from Kogi State High Court, which we just put up for our viewers to see, and if that one restrained the EFCC from arresting, detaining, or prosecuting him. The EFCC appealed based on jurisdiction, and I mean, for the EFCC, they believe that the judge erred in the area of jurisdiction. Now, the other one, which gave the EFCC permission to arrest former governor, is from the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja. And I'd like you to take a listen to what Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Kayode Adilola, thinks about this, particularly about the jurisdiction and how it concerns agencies of government, particularly federal agencies. Then I'll get your thoughts on that. So let's listen to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Kayode Adilola.
I believe that anyone who has gone through some legal training would know at what point in time his authority is being exceeded, whether as a legal practitioner or as a judge. If a matter is brought before a judge, what he needs to look at are two major things: the parties and the subject matter in the claim brought before him. If the High Court judge saw that the EFCC was a defendant, he simply should have told the parties that I will not be able to handle this matter, take it to the Federal High Court. But then again, the defendant, well, the claimant in this situation, so you hire Bello, was a governor only until, in the manner of speaking, yesterday. So, you know, you understand what I mean by that. So the judge probably felt he had a responsibility to him. It's not right. We should not allow jurisprudence to go to the dogs. We know when have no authority. The constitution is very clear. A federal government agency can only be sued at the Federal High Court. So we should, as lawyers, whether sitting advocate or not, and as judges also, look at these matters carefully so that we do not act as though we're ignorant of these things. It's just not right.
So, Mr. Fanwo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria says it is clear a federal agency can only be sued at a Federal High Court, and he sees this as an anomaly. Your thoughts?
Thank you very much. I want to say that I'm not a senior advocate of Nigeria, but I'm a senior advocate of logic and common sense. And you know, the former governor approached the court for the protection of his fundamental human rights, except you want to say that state high courts do not have the jurisprudence to hear cases that has to do with the fundamental human rights of the citizens of the state. All the things they are talking about had to do with the government of Kogi State. All the accusation leveled against the former governor were said to have been perpetrated against when he was the governor of the state. So this is Kogi State, and he had approached a state high court to protect his fundamental human right. Except the senior advocates of Nigeria who want to say that the state high court has no right to protect the fundamental right of the former governor. It's not about just suing the EFCC. It's not about instituting legal action against the EFCC. It is about the protection of the fundamental right of the former governor. And he has the right to do that, going by the history of the altercations between the state government and the EFCC in the past, and going by the kind of very ridiculous allegations that we see flying around today, then you know that his right to seek his fundamental human rights.
I'd like us to go back to the involvement of your principal now, Governor Ododo, in all of this. And the EFCC is not happy with this. In fact, at the court, the lawyer was saying that, well, immunity is conferred on the person, on the office rather, and not on the residents. Even went as far as saying, if need be, the military will be brought in, if they have to bring in the military, to arrest former Governor Bello. For a lot of people, they saw the arrival of Governor Ododo at his residence yesterday as obstruction of the lawful duty and role of the EFCC.
The governor has the right to visit the residence of the former governor. Whether the former governor was there or not does not matter. He has the right to visit the residence of the former governor. He also has the right to move and go to anywhere he wants to be. So it's not an issue as far as I'm concerned. When you look at the allegations, Nigerians are watching very keenly. I've received a lot of calls from Nigerians home and abroad concerning the allegations that were leveled. Initially, they said those money were stolen in September 2015, 3 months before Governor Bello was sworn in as executive governor of the state. I think when they were told that what they had done would ridicule the nation and the Committee of Nations, they decided to move the dates forward again. He didn't steal it again in September 2015, but they are now saying all those funds were stolen in February 2016. Now let's come to the logic of it. Governor Bello was sworn in on January 2016. So before he got his first allocation as executive governor, EFCC is claiming that he has stolen 80 billion naira. That's ridiculous. And I think we should start interrogating some of these things rather than the frivolities. So what this tells us is that EFCC is just working to an answer, by laying a siege to the residents of the former governor. They are only acting a script, but that script was even badly written. And, it was September, it's no longer September, it's February. Are they aware that the international community is seriously looking at what we are doing in this country? Are they aware that a lot of people are reading a lot of insinuations to what is going on right now? We had a governor who was the best in the history of the state, infrastructure development, human capital development, and all of that. And this is what he will be rewarded with victimization. Then, you are trying to discourage good leadership. GYB was a very good leader of the state throughout his term as governor of the state. So it's unfortunate. And I think when they are talking about military coming to the Kogi State government house, that will amount to mutiny. That will amount to committing coup against the government of Kogi State. Who told them that the former governor is in government house? They need to do due diligence. That's why they are losing a lot of cases in the law court, because they are not doing due. How are they going to defend the fact that they said a former governor stole money from the state government 3 months before he became governor, and he had no business, he had no transaction, he had no contract with the state government?
Well, Mr.
Is that not ridiculous?
Let me just come in here.
80 billion just 3 weeks into his administration. These are going to be very defend because they have no evidence to support this. So I think Nigerians need to start speaking to the logic of the matter rather than being hired to come and defend illegalities.
There's something really curious, though. I didn't mention that the EFCC said they were bringing the military to the government house. You are the one saying that. They just said if they had to get the military to arrest the former governor, they would. So does that imply that he is actually in the government house?
I did not say that. You first mentioned the fact that they said if they would need to bring the military to do that, they would do that. But for military to come and besiege the government house, that will amount to terrorizing a constituted authority. Kogi state government is part of the federating states of the federation, and that will not be acceptable. And that is not even to say that the governor is in government house. You know, he has since been the governor of Kogi state, and the person in government house today as the governor is Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo, except they want to carry the lawlessness forward by saying they will set aside the immunity of the incumbent governor to come and arrest him with the military. I think they are taking it too far. And I want to say that it is high time the president waded into the issue and ensure that we do not descend to a state of anarchy because of the lawlessness of an agency that is supposed to stop corruption.
Well, let me ask you a personal question, Mr. Fanwo, as we wind down on this. You've worked with former Governor Bello very closely, I should say, very closely for 8 years. Can you vouch for him personally that he is above board, that he cannot be found wanting when it comes to management of funds? Can you vouch for him?
Let me tell you this, Mr. Cowdy. You know, we are doing a lot in the state right now to calm Fredenhouse. You know, he's a very popular figure, an iconic figure in the state, followed by thousands of people. And people are already threatening to hit the street to demonstrate. We don't know what the fallout of this will be, so we are trying to do a lot of sensitization to calm Kogites down. We're on top of the situation, and the law courts are there to protect everybody. And I'm using this opportunity to tell Kogites not to hit the streets. The former governor is doing very fine, and he has all the capabilities and capacity to defend himself in the law court. And there is no need for anybody to you know, steer any breakdown of law and order. As to whether I can vouch for him, I worked with him for 8 years. I worked with him from his first day in office, and I worked very closely with him. It was not just an official relationship, but a personal relationship. And I know that he is someone who will not have anything to do with corruption. I understood all the sacrifices he made. I understood all what he did to make this state great. I understand all the development he brought to the state.
Right.
So watching what was happening yesterday, I was very sad. We should not be repaying statesmen, hard-working leaders. We should not be paying them back in this kind of manner. So I think to a large extent, I would vouch for him anywhere, any day, the law court, everywhere. I would defend his integrity. I would defend what I know about him as a transparent, accountable, and a man that is given and committed to probity.
Mr. Kingsley Fanwo, Commissioner for Information, Kogi State, thank you for your time. This is a developing story, and of course, from time to time, we'll be touching base with you for updates. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cowdy. I will always be here to respond to you. Thank you very much.